Chapter 8. The Fifth Morning. Dawn broke over Sol IOB-007 like a wound opening in the sky. A pale, bruised light spilled across the outpost, washing over jagged barricades and the blackened wrecks of drones that had fallen on the first night. The air was still, heavy with the metallic tang of dust and burnt oil. Every sound seemed to echo too far. Boots scuffing gravel, wind whispering through cracks in the plating, like the planet itself was holding its breath. Captain Reeve stood on the command deck, helmet under one arm, mug of cold coffee in the other. He hadn't slept. No one really had. The floodlights still burned along the perimeter, throwing hard shadows across the ground. The night had been quiet again. Too quiet. But the kind of quiet that made men keep their fingers close to the trigger. Below, soldiers moved slowly, from exhaustion. They'd been through 4 days of hell. The faces that remained were hollow-eyed and pale beneath their visors, but they moved with grim determination. They'd buried more friends than they cared to count. The walls held, barely, but the enemy had been watching, learning. Reeve steps outside. Eyes swept the valley beyond the base. The ridges were silent, the wind stirring faint trails of dust across the barren ground. No movement, no sound, but his gut said otherwise. Something was out there, crouched beneath the rocks, waiting for the moment they blinked. "Sir." Lieutenant Mara's voice broke through the static of the comm channel. "North sensors just came back online. I've recalibrated the thermal filters. We're picking up traces again." "Movement?" "Not yet. But there's residual heat in the soil, like something's been burrowing close to the surface." Reeve frowned. "Same as before?" "Same pattern. Are they mapping us?" He set down his mug and clipped his helmet back on. "Meet me at the north wall." By the time Reeve reached the ridge, Mara was already there, crouched beside a portable scanner. The ground beneath her feet was cracked and ridged like old scar tissue. She tapped at the display, pulling up heat signatures, faint blotches spreading under the soil. "They're probing the perimeter again," she said. 2 meters deep, slow moving. Could be feelers, maybe scouts. Reeve knelt beside her. "Or they're softening the ground." "For what?" He looked out at the ridge, the morning sun cutting long lines of shadow across the landscape. "For digging through." Mara straightened, expression grim. "If they come from below, our barricades mean nothing." "Then we change the field." Reeve tapped his comm. "Lennox, get your team up here. Bring the charges." Corporal Lennox arrived 5 minutes later with 3 soldiers in tow, packs of explosives slung over their shoulders. His voice came through the helmet mic, casual as ever despite the bags under his eyes. "Morning exercise then? Thought we'd try sleeping for a change." Reeve pointed to the ridge. "We're reinforcing the north sector. You see that scanner feed?" Lennox crouched, studied the map. The heat signatures pulsed slowly, like something breathing beneath the earth. "Yeah, I see it. Ugly bastards are tunneling again." "Exactly. We're lining the outer trench with seismic charges. I want a chain reaction ready to drop half the ridge if they try to come up through it." Lennox gave a lopsided grin. "Now you're talking." Mara folded her arms. "Keep it clean. We can't risk collapsing too much of the terrain. That ridge is our only cover if the front wall goes." "Don't worry, Lieutenant," Lennox said, picking up a shovel. "I'll blow it up artistically." By noon, the camp was alive again with grim purpose. The rhythmic clatter of tools echoed through the yard as soldiers and engineers reinforced plating, rewired sensors, and dug fresh trenches. The dust rose thick around them, clinging to armor and visors. Every movement carried the dull ache of exhaustion, but no one stopped. Reeve and Mara worked side by side near the command hub, going over updated defense grids. They'd adjusted firing zones, tightened patrol rotations, and doubled the watch. On paper, the outpost looked ready. In reality, it was barely holding together. Lennox's voice crackled over the comm. "Charges in place, boss. If anything sneezes under this ridge, it'll wish it hadn't." "Good work," Reeve said. "Hold position and keep your eyes open." "Aye, sir, and, maybe tell Mara I didn't actually blow anything up yet." Mara smirked faintly without looking up from her datapad. "Tell him I'll believe that when I see it." The afternoon dragged on in oppressive silence. The heat rose to shimmering levels, the twin suns baking the metal walls until they hummed with warmth. The men moved slower, shadows lengthening as the light shifted. Reeve checked in with the comms techs, who were trying to repair the long-range transmitter. Still nothing. Just static. The relay satellites above Sol IOB-007 were either dead or blocked by atmospheric interference. They were on their own. At 1700 hours, a faint tremor rippled through the ground. Subtle, but everyone felt it. Cups rattled. Loose bolts vibrated on tables. "Quake?" Weller called out. Mara shook her head, watching the scanner. "No, too short. Too rhythmic." "Then what?" Before he could finish, the motion sensors along the southern wall flared red. Lennox's voice barked over the comm. "Contact, South Ridge, multiple heat signatures moving fast. Above ground this time." Reeve and Mara sprinted for the wall. The sirens wailed to life, klaxons echoing across the outpost. Soldiers scrambled to their positions, rifles snapping into ready stances. "Positions!" Reeve shouted. "Light the ridge!" Floodlights snapped on, slicing through the dusk, and the creatures appeared. They came in a blur of movement, bursting from the rocks like shadows given form. Six-legged, armored, glistening with dirt and black resin. Their carapaces reflected the light in jagged streaks. Each one was the size of a small vehicle, fast and fluid. "Open fire!" The air filled with gunfire, controlled bursts hammering through the night. The creatures darted and wove, their bodies moving with unnatural coordination. They didn't rush blindly this time. They fanned out, keeping low, striking in pairs. Reeve fired short, precise bursts, aiming for joints and underplates. The rifle's recoil numbed his arm. Beside him, Mara barked orders into her comm, her voice cutting through the chaos like steel. "Left flank, push fire! Keep them in the open!" The creatures roared, a low, guttural sound that rattled the chest cavity. One lunged at the barricade, claws scraping across metal as it tried to pull itself up. Weller tossed a grenade. It exploded beneath the creature's body, tearing it apart in a shower of debris. Another creature darted from the side, fast as lightning, slamming into a gunner's nest. The man screamed before being dragged down, his rifle clattering against the wall. Blood sprayed the floodlights in a wide arc. Lennox triggered the charges on the southern trench. The explosion tore through the earth, lighting up the night. Dust and flame erupted skyward, the shockwaves slamming against their armor. A creature half buried in the trench screeched and collapsed, limbs twitching. "Good hit!" Reeve yelled. "Still more coming!" Lennox shouted back. They were everywhere now, circling, flanking, pressing from multiple directions. The sensors flickered, alarms blaring in every sector. Mara ducked behind cover as a creature's claws slammed into the barricade above her. They're splitting our focus. They're driving us back toward the center. Reeve reloaded, voice sharp. Fall back to secondary line. Keep formation. They retreated in teams of 2, firing, moving, covering each other. The outer wall shuddered under the impact of claws and bodies. Panels buckled, metal screamed. One of the soldiers tripped, a creature barreling toward him. Then a burst of gunfire from above cut it down. Lennox, perched on the tower, yelled, "You're welcome!" The creature hit the dirt, twitching. Smoke rising from the holes burned through its body. For a moment, the gunfire eased. The creatures hesitated at the edge of the light, pacing, watching. Then, slowly, they began to withdraw, slipping back into the darkness beyond the ridge. The silence that followed was worse than the noise. Reeve lowered his rifle, chest heaving. Smoke drifted across the yard, mixing with dust and burnt ozone. "Status?" he asked. "3 wounded, 1 dead," Mara said, voice steady. "Perimeter holding, but we've lost the south fence sensors. Half the charges are spent." Reeve nodded grimly. "They're probing us. That wasn't an attack. It was reconnaissance." Lennox hopped down from the tower, wiping dust from his visor. "You're telling me that wasn't the main event?" "Afraid not," Reeve said. "They're seeing how we respond. Next time they'll hit where we're weakest." Mara looked to the horizon. "Then we find where that is before they do." The wind picked up again, dry, carrying a faint, strange smell, like rot and ozone. Reeve turned his head, eyes narrowing toward the dark ridges. Out there, something moved. Just for a second. A shimmer of heat against the dusk, vanishing as quickly as it appeared. Reeve raised his rifle, but there was nothing left to see. "Everyone back to posts," he ordered. "We're not done yet." As the squad dispersed, Mara lingered beside him, eyes on the same stretch of darkness. "They're changing tactics," she said quietly. Reeve didn't answer. He didn't need to. The night ahead was going to be long, and somewhere in that valley, the enemy was learning faster than they were. There is always a story to be told out here in the frontier, as long as there is someone to listen, like, and subscribe, and join us again for more.